Hello, tutor. My partner and I chose Greek culture. We chose this culture since ancient Greece laid the foundation of democracy, philosophy, mathematics, science, and the arts. Its thinkers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle remain fundamental in the history of human thought. Greek culture, theater, architecture, and sculpture have been a great influence on the Western culture. Works such as Homer, Iliad, and Odyssey, the tragedies of the Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides. The architecture of Greek temple are notable. There are many examples in English word than an other language than divided from Greek. Therefore, understanding Greek can help you better understand the meaning and the origin of many words, as I said before, in another language. It's promoted critical thinking and rational debate skills that are useful in many academic or professional fields. On the other hand, in terms of language acquisition, learning Greek can be beneficial because when learning Greek, you acquire roots and terms that are the basis of many words in English, and the other language studying a different language promotes memory, concentration, and multitasking ability, which can make learning other language easier in the future. And also, by understanding the Greek language, you can gain a deeper understanding of the Greek culture, history, and tradition, which can enrich your foreign language learning experience. In summary, Greek culture is important both for its historical and cultural influence and for its contribution to the development of human thought, and learning Greek can be beneficial for language acquisition by expanding vocabulary, developing cognitive skill, and deepening the culture understanding. Thank you very much, tutor, for your time.
Hello to everyone. My name is Jairo, and in this video, I'm gonna develop with my classmate Fabian the step number 3 of the task number 2 of the course Language and Culture. Here, we're going to share thoughts and experience and comments about the Greek culture. That is the culture that we choose to develop this step of the task. Here, we are going to talk about the main features of the Greek culture, like the mythology, architecture, literature, and how this culture helps to improve the learning of a new language. So here I like to start talking about the most famous main feature of the Greek culture. So I like to start talking about the mythology. The Greek mythology is one of the richest culture aspects that the Greek culture has, because as you know, the Greek culture is written in our countries, like in Colombia, in Latin America in general, and it's one of the most popular aspect of this because the mythology is studying, is writing in every country, and we read them, and it's very, very interesting. The mythology we've been seeing, like in the school, we learn about that mythology because it's very, very important. It's one of the richest aspects to and fascinating aspects of this culture. Then I like to talk about the architecture. The architecture of a Greek culture is very, very fascinating. As you can see here in the slide that I'm sharing right now, we can see the lot of symmetric and hypnotic things that we can see of their buildings and the architecture. We can see, for example, some and building called Zeus Temple that is, as you can see, is symmetric and is very, very enjoyable to see. This is one of the most aspects that I like at most. I do enjoy seeing and exploring about the Greek culture, their monuments, their building, their architecture. It's very enjoyable. Here we can see another that is like a temple also, but from inside. So this is why we choose this culture. We are sharing, as my classmates are going to do as well, some of the most significant aspect of this. Then I like to advance talking about the literature. The Greek literature is like connected with the mythology. In the literature of the Greek culture, we can see two of the most popular works of literature that are the Iliad and the Odyssey. That are those two works that is really, really enjoyable to read and is one of the most studied works in the history. The history, these works have been represented in movies, in theater operas or works, and a lot of things. We even in our schools, as well as the mythology, we can also learn about these works. We even in my school, when I was a student of my school, I had to read the Odyssey in my Spanish class. So it's very fascinating because there is a lot of rich things that we can read there, and we can learn about the Greek culture, their belief, their thoughts, how they think, and how they works in their literature. Another great thing that I'd like to share about Greek culture is this, the sculptures. The sculptures, we can see a lot of sculptures in Greek culture that are showing or representing ancient things, ancient heroes, ancient gods, and a lot of interesting things to see. As you can see in the image, they are like art. It's fascinating to see. It's like abstract that is had instead of having like a immediate message, you have to analyze, you have to interpret that, and you have to see like I think this is showing something or is the other thing. That is very fascinating for me because it's not like oh yeah it's obvious what is the meaning of what is that sculpture representing. No, you have to analyze, you have to think, you have to share your thoughts, your experience, your opinions with other people to like to have an agreement about what's the meaning of these sculptures that I found very fascinating. Another thing, or the last thing that I'm going to talk about Greek culture is the philosophy. The Greek philosophy is like, oh my God, it's like the most important thing that I consider from the Greek culture. All the society that where we are living, all our knowledge about education, and knowledge about mental education, about mathematics, physics, everything was born in a Greek culture. Everything with philosophers like Platon, Aristoteles, Socrates, they are become in one of the most important things in the human history because they have been like writing about how our society is working today since those ancient years. So the literature or the philosophy, I'm sorry, about the Greek culture is very, very fascinating because they've been they created the base of the society that we are living today. They are creating the basis of the educational knowledge, the basis of the medicine, the basis of the mathematics. So this is why the philosophy and the Greek culture have been building a whole society, not just in these Latin countries, but I think because we also the uh, not just in this country, it's also in the whole world because the heritage of the Greek culture is one of the biggest things that exists in the world today. So this is important to say about it, to talk about it, and to remark it, and to recall all the time that the Greek culture is the most important culture in my opinion, because from the Greek culture was born everything we know of our society today, our ways to think, our ways to study, just everything. And that's all about what I like to mention about Greek culture. Now, let's continue with how this culture can help us to learn a new language. Starting with the general things, when we are fascinated with a culture, we are more open-minded to learn new things. For example, if we are interested in the Greek culture and we're interested in learn Greek language, we are going to be fascinated. We are going to be motivated to do it because we like it. We enjoy the process. So it's very, very significant for this part. But also we have an immersion process with the language because we are not just learning like grammar rules, grammar, structure, vocabulary. We are having immersive. We are joining in the culture to understand why the language works in that way, why this grammar structure is like this, or why or from where came that language. So the immersion is one of the biggest important things in order to learn a new language because we are interacting. We're interacting with that language. We are not forcing our interaction with that language. We are interacting naturally. So this creates a process where we, as a new language learners, enjoy the process and know more about it. Now, another thing that is more specific or particular from the Greek culture is that what I mentioned before, the immersion and enjoying process that we have with the literature, we have with philosophy, we have the mythology, and a lot of interesting content that we can have to practice a new language to take into account in order to learn a new language. It's fascinating the input process when we have to like we are learning a Greek language and we have to learn or we have to read a text, a book like the Odyssey, like the Iliad, and this creates an input comprehensible when we are reading those texts in whatever language it is. It might be Greek, it might be English, and we are going to be interested in those texts that will increase our learning in not just English, any language capacities in order to have a better competences in learning a new language. So this is why it's very important the fact of learning a new language that so this is why I consider the Greek culture is very important to learn a new language because it offers or provides a lot of cultural aspects, a lot of literature, a lot of mythologies that make part of the literatures in order to use as a resource to learn a new language. And from now, I think I have no more words to mention about the Greek culture. Everything that I had to say, I already said. So, in a small summary, the Greek culture is very rich, not just in order to all the content that they have, like mythology, Zeus, not just. It's in all aspects, and also their works to improve the society that we are living today. All the things that the ancient philosopher, the ancient study people that provides to the humanity all the studies that they believe, the things that they study, observing how the works work, why the existence is like this, and a lot of fascinating things. So this is everything I had to mention about Greek culture. Thanks for watching this video and goodbye.